grace to you, and peace from God who was and is to come. I hope and pray that you are in good health and that you are holding on to the promises our faithful God has made to us. You're able to be content to wait for the Lord. Thank you for letting me share with you some thoughts about times we want something but just have to wait for it. That's the theme for the week. My first example is the story of Jonah, who tries to run from God's plan for him, but ends up being tossed overboard to save a ship from the storm sent as punishment for his defiance. You know what happens next. It's told in Jonah chapter 1, verse 17. But the Lord provided a large fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. This is the word of the Lord. And these are my thoughts. Jonah got himself into that mess, had no one to blame but himself. God gives him a job he doesn't want to do, so he heads in the opposite direction, almost daring God to do something about it. Well, God does. And now Jonah is stuck in the belly of some large fish-type beast, and there's nothing he can do about it. At this point, he has no choice but to wait for the Lord and see what God is going to do next. Save him? Leave him there? Jonah has no way of knowing. He can pray, and he does, fully aware that things could have been worse. He could have drowned. But while he was struggling in the water, he cried out for help, and God sent the fish. From his place inside it, Jonah thanks God for saving him and promised to offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving, if he ever gets back to the temple, that is. Now we know the end of the story, but Jonah didn't. He had to wait for it. 3 days of waiting before he found out. 3 days of doing nothing but pray and wait for it. We are all in a mess with the coronavirus, but we're not responsible for that one. However, there are plenty of other messes we get into where there's no one to blame but ourselves. Sometimes we're able to get ourselves out of the holes we dig, but not always. Sometimes all we can do is pray. Pray, then wait and see what God is going to do next. Save us? Leave us sitting in our own mess? That's when we could remember how much worse things could be. Remember how much God has already helped us. We base our prayers on that. Then sit and hope for rescue. Wait for it, hoping and praying that it'll come. We can pray, hope, and wait. So be it. I have a quote for you from The Reasons of the Heart by John S. Donne. When one first enters upon the spiritual adventure, hope rises where there was no hope before, where there was a life of quiet desperation. There's something to live for where before there was nothing. I'll leave you with a blessing. When you can do nothing but wait, may that waiting be a time of blessing in which you learn and grow in patience and in faith. A time when you learn the power of hope. A time when you remember that God has been with you before and will be with you after, even if you don't feel that presence as you are waiting. God is with you now. You are already blessed. Amen.